Welcome back to Safa's Unscripted, episode 95. Little preview of the Summer Series Internationals. North versus South. Brett, Brevan, lads, how are we doing? Brett, tell us.
Yeah, I don't give a shit about Summer International. We are in the peak of winter. It's the Winter Internationals. I don't care what the Northern Hemisphere calls it. It's been played in the Southern Hemisphere. It's winter.
Yeah. Okay, Brett on smoke early doors.
To me, it's just it's Castle incoming series. That's what I call it.
Castle's going to be coming down my mouth early doors on Saturday. I'll be drinking all day.
Did you see from 9 o'clock? It's like England All Blacks, then it goes to Wallabies Wales, then it goes to Box versus Ireland Jeepers. How could I forget that one? Then we go France versus Argentina, and then Canada Scotland. So it's literally from 9 o'clock in the morning to 11 o'clock at night. There's rugby on. It's crazy. So good time to be alive.
Exactly. And we're going to do a little preview of all those games as we did for the URC. Little prediction time. See who gets it right. We'll also see if we can do a super brew. If we can set up a super brew, we'll share the link with you guys in the description down below that you guys can join, go against us.
Good idea.
Anyway, please do remember to like and subscribe. As always, we do appreciate you guys, your input, your banter, your everything. Starting off, our first game, we got Samoa versus Italy. I actually think this is an interesting game, boys. Brett, what do you think?
Yeah, I look forward to these type of games because obviously the Italian side is fresh off of the Six Nations. Well, not fresh off, but they got some good continuity going, and this was probably their best year in history. Although they still came second last, they had a good season, and Samoa has been up and down over the last 10 years. So if this is Italy's time to win every single game, it's now.
Yeah, fair enough. Did they send their strongest team to go and play Samoa?
I don't know.
They stupid not to.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I think you want to build confidence in the side. You want to build some victories. But also, Samoa aren't necessarily a massive pushover, if that makes sense. Obviously, we know there's always fight. There's always fights in those Maori countries, especially Samoa, Fiji, etc. So, yeah, I think obviously I back Italy to get the job done. I think they showed a lot of character in the Six Nations. So obviously, will probably be an interesting game. But I do think Italy will eventually break the seal and eventually. That's the weirdest analogy I came up with this whole bloody time.
Listen, Samoa, you are right. Samoa's no pushover. Remember in the World Cup what they did to England, how close they pushed them? I think they were in the lead the whole game until England finally snatched it at the end or something like that. Italy, obviously, they are a team that's pushing upwards. They are moving forward. They're an exciting team. So I do expect Italy to win this game. But it will be interesting to see how the Samoan team lines up and actually plays with. Obviously, their rugby has gotten so much better since joining the Super Rugby. And you see a lot of those guys that don't necessarily make it into the Wallabies or the New Zealand team go and play for the likes of Samoa. So that is interesting. I'm going with the Italy victory by about, let's say, 11 points. I think that's a fair assumption. Brett?
Yeah, same. I'm not going double-digit victory. I'm going very close. It's going to be a nail biter. I think it's going to be like 3 or 4 points to Italy.
Okay. Brevan?
I don't know. I've got a feeling that this could be a bit, like I said, it will be close initially, but I do think eventually Italy win this one by 15. I just think towards the end they pull away, personally.
Yeah, fair enough. Second game up, we've got Georgia versus Fiji, and with the names, the way that the names are written, is Fiji touring Georgia instead of Georgia coming down south? Looks like Georgia's home team.
Not sure.
Well, anyway, Fiji's getting the victory. That's basically
so much research before we do all our videos.
Exactly. I just saw the names and I saw Georgia's written first, and I was like, okay, well, that's interesting. Anyway, Is this a bit of a dull affair? Is this a bit of a boring game, or do we actually expect some fireworks?
Look, I personally think Georgia's trying to build something special, especially from like a younger generation. I find that the under-20s actually have a lot of talent, especially when they compete in these under-20 World Championships. They don't always win necessarily, but I find that they put up quite a fight, and then obviously it falls apart towards the end. But obviously, we know in recent times, Georgia have beaten Wales. So, yeah, I don't think they'll beat Fiji, but I do expect them to put up a fight. I do expect Georgia to show something, you know. So I'm going to go with Fiji to win, maybe also just by about 15 points.
Yeah. If I look at the Fiji game versus the Barbarians, and I'm probably one of the only people in the world that cannot stand watching Fijian rugby. I think it's extremely like low grade rugby. There's no tactics behind it. It's just pass it to the biggest guy. Let's see if they can do something flashy. I really don't enjoy Fijian rugby. And against the Barbarians, they were atrocious. And I think that if Georgia has any time to win something now, it's going to be against this Fijian side that probably
I think to be fair,
good in the World Cup.
But also I think to be fair, Fiji in this game against the Barbarians didn't have any of their stars, because a lot of their stars play in these countries where they didn't release their players for the international, because they weren't within the international window. So yeah, but it also depends. Do Fiji play full strength here?
Georgia by 4.
Fair.
Fiji by 4. Brevan?
I've made my prediction, bruv. Did not hear me.
Okay. No, fair enough. Anyway, enough with this low games. We got our first big one. We've got New Zealand taking on England. Do we see an upset in the making, boys?
No.
Yeah. Listen, let me go first. Let me go first. And let me just... So, obviously, we are South African fans. We are very anti-England as can be. But if I go look back at that game that England played against Japan, yes, it's Japan, and it's not really anything to go by. But a guy like Ben Earl can do serious damage to a New Zealand side that has not just a new coach, a new coaching staff, a new tactic of playing, a new everything. So I don't think people are already writing England off like it's a done deal, going to New Zealand just to be battered. And I don't agree. I think that England either comes within 2 or 3 points, or they pull a nail bite, like a nail scrape victory somewhere at one of the tests. So I'm not too negative about this English side. I'm honest. I think that they looked very good against Japan.
Now, I wouldn't necessarily write off England, but I would be scared of this All Blacks team. That I think they are going to be absolutely brilliant, because even though they've got a new coaching staff, the coaching staff is a winning. That's a winning coaching staff. That is a team that's already got team chemistry. They'll still flow as they previously were. They've had their camps. They're playing at home, and the big thing is the English defense is not great. I saw that Japan game. If you watch that game, the first 30 minutes, exactly like they got smashed in that first 30 minutes, dropping off tackles, being run wild. If you get your rush defense wrong against New Zealand, they will put points. They'll put points on you. That's as simple as it is. Look at how good we've always said the South African defense has been. It was 18 minutes and they scored 25 points against us. It is ridiculous how good and how clinical they are. And I think the exact same happens. If the English don't get the defense right, they will be absolutely smashed this game. I think the pace of play and everything is there. We're talking about Ben Earl that can do damage. I mean, you look at that All Black side and you look at every single player that can do damage there. I think Ardie Savea will have a field day there because they have a lot of specialists, the English side, but not too many dirty work boys that we spoke about in the previous episode. And Ardie Savea can have a field day at the rucks and everything. That's just how I see it. I'm going with New Zealand to win this game by 9 points. I just think they will be too strong, especially at home. They'll be fueled. That new manager bounce, we know that. But it's ridiculous. It is a thing. It's rugby heritage. Trevor?
Yeah, you know what? At the end of the day, I don't look. I'm not here to say England are going to get battered by any means. I don't think that's in their character to necessarily go somewhere and get battered. I mean, the last time I remember they played a side where a new coach came into the mix, they took the lead by nearly 30 points in the first 15 minutes. And I'm talking about when they came to Ellis Park to play the Springboks. So I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but what I am saying is I think there will be fight for sure from the English side, but I just can't see them winning, if that makes sense. I'm not able to see where the win will come from. Obviously, like you say, there's individuals there that are definitely stick their hand up week in, week out. But I just personally see this being a New Zealand victory. Obviously, they're hurting from the World Cup loss. They'll want to start building something new, something positive. So I'm going to say All Blacks to win by 12 points. Now, that's not a battering in my eyes. If you go to New Zealand and you lose by 12, I don't see that as a battering. So
I agree. But I'm not saying England's gonna get battered. But if they get that defensive structure wrong, they will get smashed. But they are a nitty-gritty team. They will be up for the fight. But Brett, you said you watched the Japan-England game, right? Did you watch it a bit later? Did you see how they got absolutely blitzed at scrum time? And that is what I fear for them, because we know how good New Zealand is from set pieces. They've always been this flowing, running rugby team. But their set pieces in the last season or two kind of had to pick up because their flowing, running rugby wasn't as good as before, right? So Tyrell Lomax, Ethan de Groot, and Mighty Williams, they are good scrummers. They are very secure at line-out time, especially with Scott Barrett there. I fear for England if they don't match up physically, because then where do they have any form of advantage in this game?
But that's where I thought that game against Japan, that's exactly what they needed. They need to get that nonsense out of their system, and obviously they would have worked at it until then, because think about the homework they did to play the Springboks in the semi-final. I think that's what they're going to do. They're not going to go to obliterate New Zealand. They're going to go to stop all their strengths. And then with that being done, it frustrates the New Zealand side, and that creates penalties, and that is 3 points, and just becomes even more frustrating.
Yeah, kind of the approach they had with Ireland, right? That was actually almost exactly that. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but I'm still going with the New Zealand victory. I just can't see New Zealand losing, especially that first game. And then we'll talk about the second game next week. But I mean, that's at Auckland. No one wins at Auckland. Anyway, let's move on, and we'll skip the Australia game quickly because Brett needs to leave in a couple of minutes, and I'm sure he wants to talk South Africa versus Ireland. Brett, I'll give you the floor first up. Talk to us. What do you expect this weekend?
Okay, so as we saw in Chasing the Sun, that the South Africans, obviously, they showed a little bit of respect for that Irish side. They said these Oaks are much more physical than we thought they were. They gave them the respect that they needed. But I honestly, I don't care what people say, because Gloucester went to the Bulls and beat them in the URC final and made fun of
Glasgow.
Glasgow,
we know what he meant.
Glasgow, sorry. And then made fun of the sign that said altitude, it matters, whatever, or 1,300 and whatever meters above sea level, it matters. That is going to matter. The last time Ireland played in South Africa, at Loftus, they lost 33-0 to a side where actually Glasgow Warriors head coach Franco Smith was the fly-off of the Springboks, and Rassie Erasmus was the flank for the Springboks. Yes, it's quite a while ago, but I can't see this Irish side coming to South Africa and inserting their dominance like all their fans think they're going to do. I think that it's going to be a slaughtering from the Springboks to Ireland, and I'm going double-digit win for South Africa.
Ooh, tasty, Brevan. I saw a comment on our previous post. where they said, listen, does the altitude really give South Africa that much of an advantage when only 3 of our squad has been playing in altitude on a regular basis? Obviously, talking about some of the Bulls or Lions players there. Do you kind of agree with that statement that it doesn't give the Springboks necessarily the greatest advantage? Obviously, the crowd still plays a role, but yeah.
At the end of the day, I just think that, like, whatever the case may be, it's South Africa. Like, if I can explain it right, from my perspective, I play rugby in Johannesburg, and I'm now playing in winter, right? So I find that when I play rugby, whether it's even in for any match, like even though it's a different altitude, if you play in Durban or Cape Town or whatever, but if you play in winter, and you also, and especially at altitude, so we'll use altitude as an example, I find that you kind of do struggle a bit more. And I don't know what it is, but especially when it's cold and it's at altitude, there's something about the air that just, it doesn't get into your lungs. And it takes a few times for you to get used to that. Whereas all these players have played at altitude in their careers, the Irish haven't played in South Africa since 2000, or let's say altitude since 2016, if I'm not, yeah. And a lot of these players weren't in that squad either. So it's gonna benefit the Springboks, don't get me wrong. Like, yes, it might not benefit them as much as it benefits the Bulls, but at the same time, these are players that have been under these conditions, so they know what to expect.
Yeah.
But now I think what I'm trying to say is, and I'm agreeing with Brett, like it does matter, because we might, and I give credit to teams that come to Loftus and are able to put up an 80-minute performance, because that takes serious first fitness levels, and then it takes serious mind over matter, because that's what it is. And yeah, I personally see the Irish really being the Irish side we know for about 60 to 65 minutes. And then I just personally feel like if it's an open game, as much as they may seem the better attacking side on paper, I just think it benefits the Springboks if it's open play, because Oaks will be sucking their lungs. Like it's a different, like, I don't know how to explain it. It's just, it feels like you, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Let me just go quickly again. Also, just to reiterate what Brevin just said. That so for a South African, everybody, when you play in Currie Cup, URC, warm-up games, whatever, you play at altitude, then you go to Cape Town or to Durban or whatever. You are in and out of Pretoria or Johannesburg a lot in your career within a year as a South African. Like, for example, Willie Leroux, his house is in Cape Town, but he plays for the Bulls. So he's in and out, in and out, in and out. So acclimatizing for players like that it's very easy. Like I said in our previous episode, when we go play in Cape Town, it takes me only a game of 10, for example, to really get into it, and then I'm fine again, because I'm there a lot and coming in and out, in and out. The Irish are not. They are not here a lot. They came here once or twice in the URC season, and then they went somewhere else. They just acclimatized, and then they have to go back to their shitty little overcast country. So yeah, it's going to be very difficult for them, and if anybody tells you otherwise, they're wrong.
Brett, it seems like you've got a lot more confidence as the games got closer. Is that fair to say?
That is 100% the case. I'm super confident in this. I don't think it's going to be close. People need to understand, you're not going to come and beat the world champions in their backyard. It's not like in 2016 where Standard took out Patrick Lambie, illegally got a red card, and that's the end of that. Well done, you won a game illegally. It's not going to be the same. You're going to try your flipping everything out to just try and compete with the Springboks side. Never let alone beat them.
I'm already looking forward to the comment section on this one. Anyway, Brett, we will leave you. Give us your official prediction. What do you think is happening in this game?
Springboks by 13.
Springboks by 13. Okay, goodbye, Brett. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye. Have a good one. Cheers.
Cheers, brother.
Okay,
that's
Brevan,
bold.
me and you, we taking over from here. Okay, so we got to clutch up now. Do you agree with Brett? Do you feel more confident as times come closer? Obviously, we haven't seen the Irish team because obviously this goes out on Friday morning, but we're filming this on Wednesday, so we haven't seen any Irish team. Do you feel a bit more confident as times come on?
I wouldn't say there's a obviously everyone believes, especially when you have a World Cup winning side, you believe in them. So I do believe in the Springboks, and there's always confidence in them, but I'm not of the impression necessarily that Ireland will be a pushover in the sense that
No,
because I mean obviously yes in the World Cup we mentioned this 1,000 times, but there's always that you didn't get through a quarterfinal or whatever, and yeah, so what? I guess that's that. But this isn't a World Cup. This is a series where both teams want to prove that they are the best. And I just think that this Irish side has something in them. And I'm not saying I don't believe they will win. And that's all right for me to say because I do believe the Springboks will finally prove why they are the best. But I just see it being a very close game because I think both sides are very good. We banter the Irish, but I just believe they are a very good side.
No, we do respect them. Like they are a very respectable side. Not even respectable. They've got so many world-class players. They've got absolute brilliant talent in there. And even though they're missing 2 or 3 players, it's maybe a big player in Jamison Gibson Park and Hugo Keenan, but they've still got class in that team. They've still got enough to beat any team in the world. If you look at how good they are, so it is still respect. We banter them out of respect for them. They will be no pushovers. They've known for the longest time. I'm sure Andy Farrell has done meticulous planning and everything, how to overcome all the odds that might be against him in terms of the crowd, in terms of the physicality, in terms of the altitude. They would have planned how to get the victory here. So I don't really like seeing in our comments when let's say for instance Irish fans come in here and say we don't even expect a victory because you got to back your team. I want you cocky in this comment section, right? Because even if we were on a 100-game losing streak against the Irish or a 100-game losing streak against the All Blacks, we will always predict South Africa to win that game because that's the standards kind of that we set for this team, right? And that's the standards we want everyone else to set for their team. You feel you are world beaters and you can beat anyone in the world. That's why the top 3, top 4 is so close. So let's go into the official prediction. Brett said 13 points. Are you kind of the same? Are you going lower? Are you going well? You're probably not going higher.
No, well, I'm definitely not going higher. I'm going to go lower. I think it's just going to be a very close game, but I think the Springboks take it by about 6 points.
I'm going 8 points. I think the game will be in a 1-score game until maybe at the end the Springboks maybe get a penalty. Let's say 2 minutes to go. Let's say 5 points lead. Put over the 3 points just to kind of like secure the victory. That's how I see it. That's how I see it playing out. But I think both teams will be out on their feet after this game. There's been so much hype about this. The guys will be physical. I would be surprised if there's not at least one injury in this game. We know Kevin Etzebeth likes taking the knee. He takes the knee every single game. But I wouldn't be surprised if he's actually a bit injured this time around. He always just takes like an extra little water break during the game.
I expect it to be like physical because I just saw a few snippets of that Chasing the Sun today when they did the Irish game episode, and like it was just as much as we say Southern Hemisphere is physical, like those Irish players were to give them credit, they were physical in that game, and
they scrum still for the longest time.
But that's why I said in the last episode, I think that first 35 to 40 minutes, I think their scrum will not necessarily beat our scrum, but I think it will hold its position. But it's just when they have to keep on Furlong, Sheehan, and Porter, and we can bring on a fresh bench because they rely heavily on those guys. And I also think that's where the game will be won. I just think our subs will win the game for us because we've seen it. They are World Cup winners on the bench.
Yeah, we've seen it almost every game when the Springboks play. It's kind of that tactic where you literally drain the other team until our impact players from the bench come on and we kind of get the victory then. Anyway, let's move on. We've got Australia taking on Wales. And I made a video on another platform. And I said openly, because it was another company that posed the question, which Northern Hemisphere team is most likely to win their tour down south? And it asked New Zealand, England, Ireland, and Wales. And I said, I don't know, but there's one standout that will definitely not win it, and that is Wales. I don't know if you agree with it, but I think they are terrible at the moment. Like, I respect Wales. They always give us a tough game, but they are terrible. I mean, we played them literally a weekend ago where we threw a couple of guys together, said fly there to the UK, 18-hour flight, there you go. You take them on, and we put 41 points behind past them with hardly any of our starters. Our main guys were on the bench. We had Fussy, for instance, playing those. There was no chemistry, and yet we still did that to them. That was the full-strength Welsh team, in my opinion. They missed Tommy Rafael. Wow. And I do not think, and I've been open about this, that Australia will be bad. I think Joe Schmidt will do magic with it.
Yeah. I was at the point where I was thinking maybe a 1-1 in that series, but I think you're actually correct, because I just think of it like, you look at the Welsh, because I'm thinking of the Welsh team that competed in the Six Nations. And look, as much as they didn't win anything, I just felt that they were a decent side. They showed some potential. But in that South African game, I mean, we were awful. We weren't great, and we still managed to put 50 on. It wasn't 50. 41. How much was it? 41. Sorry, but still, they only managed to put 13 points past us. And when we were really struggling in the game, they couldn't capitalize. So, yeah, I'm going to agree with you. What I'm interested to see is how Australia looks under Joe Schmidt. I think that's the big question everyone wants to know, because we always have the All Blacks looking good. We have the Springboks always looking good. The Irish are there. The English are there. And these are like the big nations of rugby. But if we remember correctly, like the Wallabies are like one of the top four. Like, they're one of the big five, if that makes sense. One of the big five of rugby nations. And they've just not been up to it for a long time. And as a South African fan, I think it's sad, because I'd love to see a Wallaby side that's, when we go to Australia, we actually like, can we win this, That type of vibe. Like, so, yeah, I'm keen to see what Joe Schmidt does with that Wallaby side.
We saw the impact that Joe Schmidt had at the All Blacks when he came in. Like, obviously, they struggled, I think it was like 2 seasons ago. He came in with a couple of other guys, and they really flipped the switch. They really turned it around. And I think there's enough talent. I know there's a lot of guys that's going over to rugby league. There's 2 more that's joining the Sevens now as well. I think it's Corey Toole and Navakanta Vase. But there's so much talent still in that Australian setup. Like, you still look at the likes of the Brumbies and the Red. Even some players at their worst club, like the Force. There's talent there. There's a bunch of talent there, young guys, experienced guys as well, that can really come through and do a job. And I think Eddie Jones, where they kind of fumbled the bag, was just the team selection. How can you go without putting in some of your best players and some of your most important players in the team? I think there was too much chopping and changing there. I think they need to find their bases again. And Joe Schmidt will bring the best out of them. He's a very respected coach. And I really believe he will do a great job. And I think I wouldn't say Australia will all of a sudden be that good to all of a sudden go ahead and beat South Africa and beat New Zealand. But I wouldn't be surprised if they pull, if not both of us, just at least one of us very close in the rugby championship even. So I'm going with Australia to get a comfortable victory, actually. A real confidence boost. I'm going 19 points. 19 points to Australia.
Yeah, I'm thinking I'm on the same page. I'm thinking about 15. I think that's a fair assessment of where both sides are at, really. And obviously Australia at home, they'll want to start off good. So I'm going to go 15 points for Australia to win by 15.
Well, I think it's going to be a very ugly game. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a Phoenix game or whatever. But anyway, USA, Romania, we're not going to talk about that. That's scraps. Same with Chile, Hong Kong. We don't care. We'll talk about this quickly. Argentina versus France. Obviously, France, they haven't sent their main squad. No Dupont, no Intermarco, a really young team. And I kind of want to bring up a topic, not necessarily talk about the game, because obviously we don't know all the guys from Argentina, even never mind all the guys that's been sent by France. But we heard that Galtier, he's being watched, right? His job's not that secure as it was, let's say, before the World Cup. Is it a wise move to go and send the young squad and kind of risk it against Argentina, just put on more pressure on yourself? Or do you think they maybe told him, listen, we don't care about what happens here. Just choose a young guys, give them experience?
You know what? I think obviously Dupont was never going to play in this because obviously he's going to be involved in the sevens very soon. But I think I actually don't know what it is. I don't know if it's I don't want to call it a coward move, but it's either the French Rugby Federation saying, listen, don't send your best players here, because there's a lot of money involved in the club system there, and they don't want any major injuries possibly, even though it's just finished. But any major injuries that could carry into next season in a series that they're like, is it worth it to just beat Argentina? Or it's either Galchi saying, you know what, I'm worried. Like, if I take a full strength, because don't get me wrong, Argentina at home, especially with the full strength side, can be tricky. So if he goes there with a fairly strong side and maybe Argentina gets the better of him, then I think he kisses his job goodbye. So that's the thing.
In my opinion, I think I just think it's a bit disrespectful. I don't know about you. I think it's silly. Those guys, when you play for your country, this is not football, right? We have these international nothing friendlies. This is the actual tour that's been booked. Argentina doesn't get that much rugby there, right? So when you send a team that just hosted the World Cup, you have to send your best team, because those people in Argentina, they want to see the likes of Antoine Dupont. I'm just making an example, right? I know he's at the seven, so but they want to see the likes of a Intermark and Audrey and the best of France and see how the Argentines can match up to that. I just think it's a bit disrespectful and saying this tour literally means absolutely nothing to me. Because international rugby, it's the opposite of football or soccer, where international is bigger than club. I'm sorry, there might be a lot of money invested in those top 14 stuff, but it's to benefit your international rugby. That's how it should be. That's why the Rugby World Cup is the biggest thing and not the league throughout the year. So I just think it's a bit disrespectful. I do have Argentina to win this game, obviously. I just think France has been shit. They've been shit after the World Cup. A couple of young guys maybe can feel them and they'll be ready. They want to represent and whatever. But I kind of think maybe just hit a nerve now, and I just want them to lose. But I just feel it's stupid. It's silly. Argentina just has to literally spank them. They have to go ahead and say, listen, you decided to be an embarrassment. We will embarrass you even further. That's kind of what I want out of this game.
Yeah, I do expect, especially there in Argentina, I've seen the Springboks go there and struggle before, and that's with a decent side. So, yeah, I see it being a long day for France. I just see Argentina, like you said, they will feel disrespected that they're getting sent a weaker side. Because as a professional sportsman, you want to play the best. You always want to be involved in the best type of games. So, yeah, I think Argentina will be a bit upset by that, and they will punish the French accordingly. So I'm going to say Argentina by 20.
I could understand maybe to some degree if they played Canada or USA or Chile or whatever. But Argentina is like a top 7 side, top 6 side, and they always challenge above. I mean, they were literally in the World Cup semi-finals. Like, I mean, seriously, just they went further than you in the World Cup. Now, obviously, they had an easier run, so I'm not acting stupid, but you still get what I mean. Because now, this is lovely that we're just flying into the final game of the weekend. We look at Scotland taking on Canada. I've never seen Canada play rugby. I didn't even know they played rugby. right? I just thought the Canadian team and the USA team might have been combined because they're literally next to each other. Yet Scotland has decided, listen, we're playing full strength because we respect it. We want to grow the game. It's in uncharted territory. Those people probably want to see the likes of a Duan van der Merwe and a Finn Russell, and they want to scream "shoo" when there's a scrum or when he gets the ball or whatever, right? Because there's rugby lovers all over the world. They respected Canada enough to say, listen, okay, we're going to put 100 points past you, but we're going to send the full strength team. That's just the respect of the game and representing your country. What do you think about Canada versus Scotland?
I think the best thing I remember Canada from the 2019 World Cup when we played them in the pool stage, and Reinach scored like a hat trick within jeepers. I mean, it was bloody quick. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm not expecting much from Canada, but it's good. It's good that they are getting exposure. It's even being shown here in South Africa, if I'm not mistaken, which is huge for them because it gets eyes on them from all around the world. And obviously, playing against a well-known team in Scotland, huge for them. So I do expect Scotland to absolutely obliterate them, but let's hope Canada can put up some kind of fight. I mean, that would be good for them. So
they'll be up for it. They won't have a dying attitude or anything. I don't even think they expect them to win the game, but I think they're excited to go up against some of the world's best. I don't know. Has the World Cup in USA or Canada been confirmed?
Yeah, I think 2027 is obviously Australia, and then 2031 is USA.
Yeah, which is massive. So. I would love for USA and Canada to have a lot more games in being involved in things like this. Obviously, we've seen the MLR get its viewing rates up. It's starting to grow there. Because by the time 2031 comes along, I would have loved to have seen a couple of USA games, a couple of Canadian games, and really get them involved in rugby because they could be great nations when it comes to rugby. But anyway. Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We do appreciate you guys, as always. Do remember to like and subscribe. We will see you guys on Monday for the match reviews. We will either be crying, or we will take another sabbatical, or we will be very, very cocky. Thank you.
Cheers, guys.